Thank you. I'm going to speak on the subject of, let's see if this works. No? Doesn't work. I'm going to speak about Debunking Utopia, exposing the myth of Nordic socialism, and actually a series of books that I've written about the myth of Nordic socialism, such as Scandinavian Unexceptionalism, The Surprising Ingredients of Swedish Success, the Nordic Gender Equality Paradox, and the contribution to the libertarian book Self-Control or State Control, You Decide. Now, these books are about the myth of Nordic socialism, and this is an issue that is important throughout the world. I don't know that much about Bosnia, but throughout the world, the left uses Nordic countries as their main argument intellectually for why high taxes is a good idea. They say we'll increase the taxes, we'll create a Nordic-style welfare state, because that's the proof that socialism works. And these books for the last few years have been cited, Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Fortune, and throughout the world, like Chile, Iran, Israel, India, because free marketers kind of use them to debunk perhaps the main intellectual argument of the global left. And some of the reviews are nice. So for example, in a Cato journal, James Edwards said, if this book achieves the distribution that it deserves, it's going to break the ideological support for much of the left. And a similar case was made last year that in a book review in Insider Online. So the topic I write about is really trying to debunk one of the main arguments that the left globally uses. And this is important to understand. Today, socialists do not say the Soviet Union socialism worked. They don't say that Chinese socialism worked. They don't say that the socialism in Central and Eastern Europe worked. They don't say that socialism in Cuba worked, socialism in North Korea worked. They only say that socialism in Nordic countries work. Think about it. That is their main argument. And I explain, yes, it is because Nordic societies have a culture of success. That is why they're successful. They have a history of success, not because of socialism. So, one of the important things is that the ideal society of the left is the Nordic countries. Now, we could see this, for example, in Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders? He, of course, said that, we should become like the Nordic societies. That is the vision of American socialists. That is the vision of socialists in many, many countries, to become Nordic welfare states. Because the Nordic countries are successful. And this is not a new argument. For many, many, many decades, one of the core intellectual arguments of socialists around the world has been that Nordic socialism works. For some reason, only in the Nordic it works, right? So this is Time magazine, like 41 years ago, they're describing Sweden as a paradise because of socialism. I don't quite agree. And what I do in my books is I say, yes, Nordic societies are undeniably very successful, economically, culturally, in terms of gender equality, in terms of socially. But why are they successful? That's what my books are about. And I'm not a political ideologue, I'm an engineer. I've done research in like biotechnology in these fields in Cambridge, Sweden, US. I have my doctorate degree in engineering sciences. So I think you should always systematically prove what you're saying. And all of the things I'm going to show you is just the summary. All of this I've backed with a lot of research, with a lot of data, to show that Nordic socialism is not this successful model. And once you can show that Nordic socialism doesn't work, we've actually shown that socialism nowhere in the world works. And this is the reason I guess I'm here, this is the reason these books are cited by the people who believe in liberty and limited government throughout the world. If we show that Nordic socialism doesn't work, we've shown that socialism doesn't work anywhere, which is a good thing to show. So I'll begin with prosperity. Many socialists say, look at Nordic countries. They're rich, they have high salaries, and they have a big welfare state. So this shows us that we can have socialism and be rich. Isn't that fantastic? We can have both. Well, this is not quite true. I'll give you an example of this. In 1943, there was an Irish historian. He asked the question, why is Denmark, he said, so much more prosperous than Ireland? Now, the answer could not be socialism, possibly, because Denmark at the time had an almost libertarian model. They had very much capitalism, they had limited government, limited taxation. It was a free society. So what was the answer according to this researcher? He said that the reason is free markets, social cohesion and peace. This is the success of Nordic countries historically. They adopted capitalism, they adopted very strong support of private property, and they have a very unique, or at least they had a very unique Protestant working ethics. They're crazy about work. They're crazy about individual responsibility. They trust each other more than basically any other country in the world. And they also had a lot of peace. Sweden, for example, has had 200 years of peace. Now, I guess Sarajevo doesn't have that history, right? You haven't that peace. Come on. There's a lot of distrust, there's a lot of corruption. And the capitalist model doesn't really work because, I mean, you don't have the foundations of a strong market economy. People don't even know if this building is owned by its owner or really the Muslim mosque should own it. But Nordic societies have had this foundation, and they had it for a long period. So Sweden, for example, from 1870 to 1970 was not socialist. It was a very almost libertarian model. And I'm going to show you what happened. For 100 years, Sweden had small government, private property, capitalism, low taxes. And here's the wealth development in Sweden. That's a black line. You see the fantastic growth in prosperity. 100 years of small government politics in Sweden. And Denmark also, you see, has very strong growth. Now, I'm going to show you what happens when Sweden transitions to expanding the welfare state. From 1970 to 2008, we see a massive reduction of the welfare state. So the welfare state period is this one. You see, Sweden has the lowest growth. Highest growth, free market period, lowest growth, the period of welfare state expansion. The prosperity of Nordic countries is not because of the welfare state, contrary to this. And I have many research articles in my books about this, but I guess these images prove the point. Now, of course, maybe socialists will say, okay, social democracy has not created the prosperity of Nordic countries, but maybe it has created employment, because really socialists say we want everybody to have a job. I'm going to show you two images. The first image is how Sweden dealt with the Great Depression, the greatest global crisis in modern history, the greatest crisis that capitalism has ever faced, you know, the Great Depression. At the time, Sweden was a very libertarian model, and it was hit by the depression because it's a trade-dependent nation, and global trade completely collapsed, global markets collapsed. This is how Sweden dealt with the greatest crisis in modern history. These are the jobs in Sweden. Look at it. Almost immediately the jobs came back because Sweden did not rely on socialism. Back then, America went towards socialism even. All of the world said government has to create the jobs, but Sweden said the market will create the jobs. And many companies were formed, created jobs, and Sweden just left the global depression very quickly. Now, I'm going to show you another crisis. This is a crisis which happens when Sweden has a big government, very generous welfare, very high taxes. This is a crisis of the 1990s. This crisis was not global. It was just an internal crisis in Sweden. The global marketplace was growing like crazy. Sweden was exporting like crazy. You see, one of them is a huge global crisis. This one is a small local crisis. But Sweden has shifted towards a big welfare state. High taxes, labor regulations, people said, why should I work? The government is paying me as much to stay home. And here is the job development. Look at it. Very, very stagnant job development, right? And the jobs recover in 2008 when the next crisis hits. And here, a lot of the jobs created are government paying people to be employed. So you see, there's a huge difference in the ability to create jobs after the transition to big government. So we've debunked the myth that the social democratic model is good at job creation. In fact, the libertarian model was much better. Okay, so prosperity and job creation work much better when the Nordic countries have a limited government. But what about lifespan? You know, I've spoken about this book many times, like in America, for American talk shows, you know. And people always say, you know, but people in Nordic countries, they live so long lives. If we just increase our taxes, we'll live like Swedes, right? So we'll increase your tax, but you'll live a longer life. This is such a funny argument to me. Because let's look at history. I'm going to show you an image which shows the lifespan of Nordic countries compared to the rest of the world, 1960. This is the period before the welfare state expansion. And then I'm going to show you the lifespan at the peak of the welfare state. And here we have it. Look at it. There, on the right, my right, your left, we have the Nordic countries before the welfare state expansion. They had the top lifespans in the world. And then we have it after the welfare state expansion. What happens? It drops. And which country drops the most? Denmark. Which is the country in the world which has the highest tax rate? Denmark. Now, this shows, this is one of the many illustrations, that the social economic success of Nordic countries happened before they transitioned to a big welfare state. In 1960, Nordic countries, many of them had lower taxes or the same taxes as the United States back then had, which was really low levels of taxation, really limited government. And the country that scores the most is Denmark, the highest tax rate, not because of taxes, but because Danes, have you been to Denmark? They love to drink alcohol and chain smoke. So there you have it. Only one Nordic country actually increases, you know, in the ranking is Iceland. Now, of course, and it's funny because Iceland is a Nordic country which never really embraced big government in the same way. It's always had more limited welfare state. But we all know why Icelandic people live so long lives. They have such a warm, pleasant climate. No, they don't. Their country is literally made up of ice. Have you seen Iceland? Just Google Iceland. It's a volcanic wasteland. Much of it looks like Mordor in the Lord of the Rings. So why are they living so long lives? I'll tell you why. Culture. They are Vikings stranded on ice. Now their country looks like Mordor, but they just take long walks on it. And they eat fish. Nordic culture explains their success, not the welfare state. Okay, so the welfare state does not explain Nordic prosperity, contrary. They would have been much richer if they kept their free market, limited government model. It does not create job creation, absolutely not, and it does not explain the long life equality. Well, at least Nordic-style socialism explains its equality, doesn't it? No, actually not. What we see, the global pattern is, this is the country's rank in equality. You don't have to understand a table, it's a bit complex, but the thing is, the countries which have an equal income distribution, you know what sets them up? It is not high taxes or big government, it's how homogeneous society is. Iceland is a country with a bunch of Vikings on ice, so everybody is similar to each other, right? They're homogeneous, they have high income equality. United States is a country of many, many different groups, and they have very low equality. That's the global pattern. And Nordic countries used to be one big group, everybody was like each other. Of course they have income equality. Sweden, for example, now is reducing its equality because immigrants are coming in. They're becoming less homogeneous. So that's the thing about Nordic equality. And also the fact that they used to have this very strong Protestant working ethic, so everybody was working hard, then you get equality if you combine this with free markets. There's a lot of research which shows that the high levels of income equality of Nordic countries develop during the period of limited government. They become equal, then they introduce the welfare state. So it's a myth. Equality does not come from adopting Nordic-style social democracy. That is also a myth to be debunked. Now, one of the things I've written which has got a lot of attention internationally is I've looked at the Nordic people in America. Because what happened in Nordic countries, they were very poor in the 19th century. So a big percentage of the population left to America. It's just like a big share of the people from Bosnia moved to Sweden, right? So the Nordic diaspora was big, a big share of people left, and the people who left were the poor people. It were those who didn't have money, who didn't have land, who were struggling. Now, the people who went to America, they brought this Nordic culture of hard work, taking hikes, eating fish, working like crazy to America. So what happens if you combine Nordic culture with American-style capitalism? You get much more prosperity than among the Nordic people. The cousins who remained in the Nordics have much lower living standard than the cousins, the poor cousins, who went to the United States. And what I show in my books is, and this astonishes many people, Nordic Americans have the same or lower poverty level than their cousins in Nordics. They have much better outcomes in like high school dropout rates. They are economically and socially much more successful than their cousins. Which tells us that the reason of Nordic social success and economic success is very much Nordic Protestant norms of work and individual responsibility, not the Nordic welfare state. So one of my key points is that Scandinavian countries are not exceptional, they're unexceptional. Because when they combined high trust, the highest trust in the world, with super strong working ethics and free markets, they got prosperity. When they went towards high taxes, they got stagnation. When Nordic countries had small welfare states and individual responsibility, they had very good social success. But when they moved towards a massive expansion of taxes and government benefits, they got a culture of dependency. Throughout a few years, in intellectual debate, since this work has become very much spread, some socialists have been trying to argue against me, but I almost not seen anything published. And what they've published is nonsense, because this is just how it is. These are not my opinions, this is the fact. Nordic-style socialism, if you really look at it, has not been particularly successful model. And in one way, it has been very much the opposite. The Nordic model has been successful because Nordic people had very unusual norms. They had a society of super working ethics, of super individual responsibility ethics. And this culture has been undermined by the welfare state. This culture made the welfare state possible. Because you can introduce a welfare state in a country where nobody will overutilize government benefits, right? You can have high taxes in a country where everybody will work hard, even if you tax them high. But what happens is that over the generations, the welfare state has destroyed the Nordic culture of responsibility. Now, this is a World Value Survey. It starts in the 80s, and in the 80s, all the welfare state had begun to undermine the norms. But in the 80s, when you ask Swedish people, is it ever right to use government money? I take the benefit, thank you, but it's not for me. 82% said never. The welfare state had not gone that far in undermining the norms. But when the same question is asked later, 55% say never. A lot of Swedes accept, okay, you can use government money. Why not? Treat the system. And I have a lot of research in my books which shows conclusively, I'm not going to show all the research, but conclusively shows that the welfare state has destroyed the norms of people, has destroyed working ethics, and has made it acceptable to overutilize benefits. And when I say research, listen, I'm a natural science guy. This is good research. It is research that actually proves that this is the reason for why norms have changed. There are many articles, and this is one of the things academically I've done, is to show that yes, too much welfare creates a culture of dependency. And guys, I'm an immigrant to Sweden from Iran. I've seen firsthand during my upbringing how you get engineers from Iran or Iraq, they would come to Sweden, these people with strong working ethics, and become welfare dependent. And their culture was destroyed. So their children grew up in welfare dependency without working ethics. Too much welfare can actually hurt the poor. And so, to wrap up, are we moving towards a new Nordic model? Absolutely. During the past decades, Nordic countries have been very much free market. They have moved towards a lot of free market reforms. Now I'm going to shock you, but if you look at the data, which I do, in many ways Nordic countries are more capitalist than the United States. Regulation of business is much more free market in Nordic countries. The only thing they have, which is socialism, is high taxes. And the high taxes have been massively reduced. The government benefits have been massively reduced in Sweden and other Nordic countries. If you still doubt me, this is the funniest thing for me. Now, this is a socialist politician. This is the former finance minister of Denmark, a social democrat. What he did, and the Danish social democrats, is when they had the power, they said, we have to start a nationwide debate. We can't have this model anymore. We can't have this overly generous welfare model. It's bad. He said, the alternative for the welfare state we should move to is a competition state. By which he meant much more individual responsibility, much less taxes. So this is the future of Nordic welfare. Even these countries have realized their models don't work. It is not socialism which is their success. It has never been socialism which is their success. So, conclusion, Nordic socialism doesn't work. And because of this, the main argument of the global left that socialism works is debunked. Now we know socialism doesn't work anywhere. So it's been fun talking to you. I'll answer your questions. If you want to read more about my work, about Nordic socialism, there's a link, and there's a link to my other work. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and now, of course, we're open for questions, and there goes Simon.
Thank you. I have two questions basically about the Great Depression. Could you expand more what Sweden did to escape it? And the second one is the scope of government in Sweden, not just how big it is, in taxes, but the scope compared to, let's say, Western Europe, like Italy, Spain, France, they still have almost the same welfare state, almost the same level of taxation, but how are they on the question of scope of government? Thank you.
So very intelligent question. Firstly, what happened in the Great Depression is that modern welfare state was born in America. Americans started the modern welfare state. The New Deal, have you heard of it? That was the modern expansion of government. The New Deal was capitalism has failed us, government will save us. Now the New Deal was a big failure. America got a lot of stagnation and a culture of welfare dependency, and then they reversed it. They went back on a New Deal. And even Franklin Roosevelt, who introduced it, he said, I'm afraid that the New Deal will destroy working ethics of Americans. What Sweden did, what the Nordic countries did, you know what they did? The governments did? Nothing. They were unique, and they said the market will fix it. And the market fixed it. Many of the big successful companies in Sweden were actually formed during or right after the Depression. Because a lot of people were unemployed, so just, okay, we started business and employed them. A very similar thing is in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, during the recent crisis. A lot of Europe was like, help us, government will help us. The Baltic countries said, no, we are Protestant working ethic free marketeers. Let's just wait and see. And what happened was people started new businesses and created jobs. So the government's response was inaction, and that was probably the best response in the planet back then. Now you asked me about the scope of the welfare state in Sweden. I can tell you that the average Swedish person, their total tax burden, if you look at visible and invisible taxes, is like 52%, 53%. It used to be 60%. So Sweden has gone from having a very big welfare state to having a medium-sized welfare state. That's what's happened. And the generosity of government, the generosity of the welfare state is actually not that high anymore. So the government benefits are not that generous. So it's a substantial change. What we have in Sweden now is essentially we still have pretty high taxes, and the welfare isn't that good. The quality of Swedish healthcare isn't that good. It seems to be good because the Swedish people are exercising, they're eating fish, they're buying private health insurances. But believe me, it's not good. And I moved from Sweden to Malta 2 years ago myself, because Malta has essentially a libertarian system. So that a massive change has happened.